Our speaker is Lisa Blair from California Institute of Integral Studies in the United States. Today, she presents her talk on the topic, From Dyadic Exchange to Artificial Companionship, Reconsidering the Concept of Intimacy.
Hello, my name is Lisa Blair. The title of my presentation is From Dyadic Exchange to Artificial Companionship, Reconsidering the Concept of Intimacy. I am an independent scholar and educator specializing in intimacy and love in contemporary society. I recently earned my PhD in Transformative Studies from the California Institute of Integral Studies in the United States. The aim of this study is to reconsider the dominant psychological conceptualization of intimacy in romantic partnership, defined as mutual self-disclosure and partner responsiveness, by examining how digitally mediated communication, dating applications, and artificial companionship complicate the long-standing assumption that intimacy is inherently dyadic. I conducted this study by surveying various branches of intimacy-related research and polling data, spanning the fields of communication technologies, digital media studies, and AI. I employed an integrative transdisciplinary approach, which values disciplinary knowledge while encouraging scholars to draw on existing empirical and theoretical research to develop new ways of framing, seeing, and understanding topics. While numerous disciplines offer important insights into intimacy in romantic partnerships, the study of intimacy now requires a meta-paradigmatic approach. This is due to the many intersecting post-normal factors shaping today's globalized world, which situate intimate life within broader cultural and technological contexts. I will say more about post-normal times theory in a moment. The study of intimacy covers many forms of relationship. I chose to limit my study exclusively to the domain of romantic partnerships, including married, unmarried, and cohabitating partners. My study includes dating app users, newly forming couples, and couples at all stages, including long-term relationships. My work focuses primarily on monogamous relationships and is limited to studies from the United States. This presentation is organized into 3 parts. I begin with a brief discussion of the origins of intimacy in the academic context and its most dominant definition from the last 40 years. Next, I present research illustrating the link between intimacy, globalization, and post-normal times. I provide examples from recent polling data depicting trends in online intimacy and dating app use. In Part 3, I introduce research from the rapidly advancing field of AI and intimacy, emphasizing the complex discussion surrounding love between humans and artificial partners. Scholars agree that Erickson and Sullivan were the first to refer to intimacy as an important component of an individual's psychological development. However, it was not until the 1970s that the term intimacy was recognized as a formal category in psychological abstracts. Soon after, during the 1980s and 90s, the term began to appear in numerous publications in psychology and related fields, resulting in a surge in intimacy research. In this part of my study, I review the extensive literature on the conceptualizations, definitions, theories, and models of intimacy. Psychology conceptualized intimacy in 3 ways: as a quality of persons, such as a need, an individual attribute, or a motivation; as a quality of interactions; and as a quality of relationships. By far the most common conception of intimacy in psychology, and is still most used today, is what's called mutual self-disclosure and partner responsiveness. This is the interpersonal process model of intimacy developed by Rees and Shaber. This model involves partners sharing their personal and private thoughts and feelings with one another. Each partner then validates the other partner's experiences with compassion, understanding, and support. This mutual process falls under the category of intimacy being a quality of interactions, and is from the behaviorist tradition. It should be noted that although this is still the most common way intimacy is defined in the academic literature, my research revealed that couples have diverse and unique ways of experiencing intimacy. Some methods are verbal, such as self-disclosure. Others are nonverbal, such as eye contact or touch. Others are acts or practices, such as gift-giving, sharing resources, or caretaking. In addition, research from Karandashev on cultural expressions of love and intimacy has shown that verbal self-disclosure is especially characteristic of individualistic cultures, and specifically the United States. Therefore, while this model of intimacy is common in Euro-North America, it is not as common in other subcultures within the United States or in other cultures around the world. The most important aspect of intimacy that psychology tends to overlook is the influence of social and global forces on couples' experiences of closeness and connection. This is where sociology, cultural anthropology, feminist geography, and other disciplines come in. Scholars in these disciplines tend to focus on broader forces and contextual factors that affect couples' intimacy, including modernization and globalization, individualism and the popularization of the self, late capitalism and rising consumerism, second-wave feminism, and technology. These scholars include Anthony Giddens, Lynn Jamieson, Zygmunt Bauman, Eva Illouz, Sherry Turkle, Bahira Trask, Ara Wilson, Neil Gross, and others. Their work explored these larger social and global forces, recognizing that intimacy is an experience beyond simply the individual, the dyadic interaction, or the relationship. The intersection of intimacy with these larger global factors brings me to part 2, the link between intimacy, globalization, and post-normal times. Post-normal times is a term and theory created by British-Pakistani future scholar Dr. Ziauddin Sardar. It refers to the time period of 2005 to the present. Post-normal times theory emerged as a means to understand, analyze, and discuss the rapidly evolving and devolving conditions of a globalized, networked world. Sardar defined post-normal times as, quote, an in-between period where old orthodoxies are dying, new ones have yet to be born, and very few things seem to make sense, end quote. Quintessential examples of post-normal phenomena are the global stock market crash of 2008, the COVID-19 pandemic, the Arab Spring, the CrowdStrike outage of 2024, and climate destruction. They're all largely caused by the rapidly growing globalized and networked world characteristic of post-normal times. The term and theory refer to the complexity, chaos, and contradictions that emerge simultaneously at a rapid speed and on a large scale, impacting numerous sectors at once, including the environment, economy, politics, governance, healthcare, education, and even personal relationships. Sardar defines normal as that which is frequently encountered, the dominant way of being, doing, and knowing, and predictable and controllable systems. He wrote, "Ours is a transitional age, a time without the confidence that we can return to any past we have known, and with no confidence in any path to a desirable, attainable, or sustainable future," end quote. The post-normal age is marked by rapid globalization and constant connectivity as individuals and institutions respond instantly to 24-hour media and digital communication. As people, information, and capital move fluidly across borders, cultural and social boundaries erode, generating heightened complexity, chaos, and contradictions. Within this context, couples navigate shifting needs and values shaped by consumer culture, media, and law, and intimacy itself grows more complex, blurring public and private life and prompting scholars to reconsider what intimacy means. My research on online intimacy centered around the sub-questions: how have the digital age, dating apps, and social media platforms brought about increased complexity, chaos, and contradictions for couples in intimacy? And do the internet, smartphones, and social media afford couples more intimacy or less? Cell phone use in romantic partnerships involves a constant trade-off between connection and distraction. For example, 21% of married and partnered adults feel closer due to online or text messaging, and 9% have used text messaging to resolve an argument they struggle to resolve in person. However, it is becoming increasingly common for couples to report that their partner is distracted by their cell phone when they are together, known as partner phubbing. This phenomenon has been shown to significantly harm relational intimacy and lead to decreased relationship satisfaction. In fact, research has shown that 51% say their partner gets distracted by their cell phone when together, and 40% are often or sometimes bothered by the time their partner spends on their phone. In terms of social media and self-disclosure, studies have shown a new kind of blurring of the lines between what is considered private and public. In terms of how social media benefits couples' intimacy, when partners share about their relationship on Facebook, 33% say social media is somewhat important for expressing care, and 28% use social media to stay updated on their partner's life. On the other hand, 23% have felt jealous or uncertain due to their partner's social media interactions with others, leading to uncertainty and instability in their relationship. These contradictions were mirrored in a series of 4 studies on the effects of self and partner's online disclosure on relationship intimacy and satisfaction. This research showed that while greater offline disclosure was associated with higher relational intimacy and satisfaction, online disclosure revealed the opposite, lower intimacy and satisfaction for both the person who disclosed and for their partner. They concluded that the effects of disclosure on romantic partnerships are context-specific, and that online public disclosure may be detrimental to romantic relationships. Dating apps are a major site of intimacy research with over 381 million users worldwide in 2024 and a market value of $9.65 billion US. And dating app use is increasing every year. Since 2017, online dating has become the primary way straight couples meet, even though only about a quarter of straight U.S. adults have used the apps, compared to roughly half of lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults. 53% of adults under 30 have used dating apps at some point. 51% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults have used dating sites and apps, versus only 28% of straight adults. Looking more closely at the data, significant safety concerns emerge. In the United States, 56% of women ages 18 to 49 report receiving unsolicited, sexually explicit messages or images through dating apps. 43% say someone continued to contact them after they express disinterest. 37% were called offensive names, and 11% were threatened with physical harm. Harassment rates are even higher among lesbian, gay, and bisexual users, 64% compared to 45% of straight users. This is happening at a time when nearly half of U.S. adults say dating has become more difficult over the past decade. Moving on to Part 3, research on AI and intimacy is vast and fragmented across disciplines. To organize it, I identified a continuum of increasing emotional intimacy between humans and AI, which I call the AI relational spectrum. Each study or cultural example can be located at a point along this spectrum. On the far left, AI functions as a tool to initiate human-to-human relationships, such as dating apps that use matchmaking algorithms. Next, AI serves to support or enhance existing relationships. For example, when people use large language models, such as ChatGPT, to craft messages, repair conflict, or express affection. Further along, AI becomes a supplemental emotional companion. Here, users relate to AI as a distinct social presence, primarily through text or voice, even though it remains disembodied. Beyond this, AI shifts into the role of a primary love interest, as depicted in the movie Her, and reflected in users who report falling in love with AI chatbots, such as Replica. At the far end of the spectrum are AI sex and love robots, embodied partners designed to provide companionship, emotional responsiveness, and sexual intimacy. While non-AI dolls still dominate the market, AI-powered sex bots and brothel-based AI sex workers, such as those at Cyberthel in Berlin, already exist. The realm of AI-enabled sex and love robots reveals more questions than answers. We already know that people form emotional attachments to AI companions. When features are removed or systems change, users report genuine grief and heartbreak. Additionally, surveys suggest many adults believe people can fall in love with sex robots. Levy argued that love is a function and set of behaviors that an AI sex robot could be designed to mimic, thereby providing humans with companionship, satisfaction, sexual pleasure, and emotional compassion equal to or beyond that of a fellow human lover. But given AI robots do not experience vulnerability, longing, or genuine self-disclosure, this raises a deeper question about intimacy itself. If intimacy has thus far centered on a bilateral or mutual self-disclosure and partner responsiveness, then the implication is that it requires two sentient feeling beings. Alternatively, intimacy could be defined merely as a set of behaviors that can indeed be replicated by a non-feeling machine. This pivotal moment in time signals a shift in how intimacy as a term may need to be redefined, either as bilateral, wherein both people need to feel intimacy to make it intimacy, or as unilateral, like love, wherein a person can feel intimacy with another without it being reciprocated. The accelerating development of AI is generating complex philosophical, existential, spiritual, moral, legal, and ethical considerations. Scholarly and public discourse surrounding these developments reflects substantial debate and ongoing uncertainty. As AI becomes increasingly embedded in everyday relational life, important questions about intimacy emerge. Regardless of how scholars choose to define the term, the question remains: how will it affect humans to bond with an entity that is not alive and does not experience care? Will AI-mediated intimacy reduce loneliness or deepen isolation? Or would people be able to look past the fact that the robot is not actually alive and instead reap the benefits of increased connection and sexual and emotional satisfaction? Moreover, would humans begin preferring relationships with sex and love robots over being with humans because of the potential to avoid conflicts by customizing them to one's desires? Or would human-to-AI relationships ultimately have the same kinds of intimacy-related problems that human-to-human relationships experience? From this scholar's perspective, the question is not whether or when humans will be able to develop sex and love robots to the extent that the general public would treat them like humans, regardless of whether they meet the definition of sentience. That day is most certainly coming and already underway. Rather, the critical question is, do humans ultimately desire a world where AI-enabled robots share the same status as humans? And if so, who gets to decide? Thank you very much.